Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Matthew Msengati, the designer and developer. This is my YouTube channel, Coded Design, where I teach coding and user interface design. This is a CSS crash course. If you are new into CSS and web development and design, this course is for you. I'm going to teach you the basics and the fundamentals of CSS. Also, I'm going to touch base on HTML and jQuery so that I can teach you CSS in real life. So without wasting time, let's just jump straight into it. Also, I'm going to teach you CSS centering and teach you how to drink responsibly. Did I just say that? Sorry about that. That's a mistake. I thought I'm going to teach you how to think responsively. I thought I'm going to teach you how to think responsively. As you know, because of the increase of mobiles, cell phones and all that jazz, there is a need as a developer or a designer to think responsively. Whatever that you design for the desktop, it needs to adapt, or it needs to be fluid enough so that it can fit on mobile screens without you changing the code. So in this course, I'm going to help you how to think responsively. So let's just get back and delete this line. Also, I'm going to teach you the magic theory. What is a magic theory? I just realized that when I'm taking a magnet and putting it closer to my laptop screen, I realized that it affects the HTML element. You just need to open Chrome and take a magnet closer to your laptop screen, and you will see that the HTML element will move. So also, I'm going to teach you about that theory. So I call that the magic theory. Okay. Also, I'm going to teach you what is CSS, theory and understanding, colors, positioning, displaying, and also I'm going to teach you inspecting. So that's about it in this course. If you want to make sure that you don't miss anything in this course, please do me a favor. Just go to my website, to my YouTube channel, and just look for subscribe, and then please subscribe. In this video, we're just going to describe what CSS is. As a new beginner, I'm not going to bombard you with complex description and bombastic word. We're just going to get a very clear and simple description of what CSS is. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. What you need to know for now is just a style sheet, meaning that it's the mechanism for styling the HTML element, and that's about it. If we can keep it that simple. So what does that mean, styling HTML elements? It means that in the front end development, meaning that the UI and the user interface, as you can see that this is the user interface, what the user interacts with. So this is a user interface. As you might know now, that it's not just only one file that has got everything. It's a composition of different files, or at least a relationship of different file working together. So meaning that we've got HTML and we've got also CSS. As we will get deep dive into this, I will tell you also there is also JavaScript in the mix. So this means that the HTML is just a mock-up language. So it's not beautiful, it's not styled, it's just basic. In terms of building a house, I will liken HTML to a blueprint or a plan. And then we've got CSS, the styling. When the house is built, you will paint it, you will put roof tiles and whatever to make it beautiful. So CSS takes that part, it makes HTML beautiful. So it's just a cascading style sheet. It's a styling language that makes sure that HTML looks beautiful. And that's it for now. This is a series. Please make sure that you subscribe. So in this video, I'm going to teach you a thing or two about colors. Why colors? Obviously, CSS is a styling language. So you will be using a lot of colors as you continue with the course or in your journey as a front-end developer. So it's very important that I tell you the two most important things for now as a beginner in colors. Okay, so let's just quickly. By the way, I'm inside Figma. Figma is a front-end designing application. So I'm inside Figma. As you can see that this is just a square, and then let me just give it a color. So this is what I want us to talk about. The first thing that I want to talk to you about, the colors. Colors have got color code, or there are things called color scheme. This means that a color can be represented by a CMYK, a color can be represented by Pantone, a color can be represented by RGB, and a color can be represented by a hex code. So number one, this is a hex code. So as you can see that as we move up and down here in this square, this value is changing. So this is a hex code. So when you are developing a website, obviously you will get, maybe when you are working professionally, you will get a design document from the designers, from the graphic designer. Maybe they will be using Figma, the application that we are using. So they will give you some color codes there if they care enough. But some other designers, they just give you a mock-up of how the website is going to look like. So you have to find a way of sampling colors. What is sampling colors? Sampling colors is clicking this eyedropper and then sampling this color. So it will mean that you have to take that document and sample the colors for yourself. But however, what I'm trying to say is this is a hexadecimal color scheme. So you need to know this code, because that's what you're gonna use for the most part of the course and also in your front end career. So that is a hex code. Also, we don't only have a hex code, we also got the RGB. As you can see that we've got red, green and blue. So also you can represent colors in terms of the RGB, red, green and blue. However, there is also another value that is here. Sometimes you will see it generally in life when they are talking about RGB, but in web development or web design you will see that there is also another value besides RGB. So RGB is RGB or it's RGBA. Let me just quickly type it here. It's RGB or RGBA. Okay, so the R stands for red, the R stands for red, and the G stands for green, and the B stands for blue, and the A stands for alpha, which means an alpha channel. What is an alpha channel? Let's think of this is a solid color, but what if maybe this was a glass material? That will mean that it's a see-through. So when we are talking of alpha channel, think about some sort of a transparency. Think of a solid color, or just like, let's say, think of a wall, a material that you can't see through it, and also think of a glass, a material that you can see through it. And also you might also think of a tint, you know, a tinted window where you can partially see through. So when you're talking of alpha, please think about that. So we've got RGB and also we've got RGBA. So in web design, please never forget that we've got RGBA. That's why here on RGB there is this percentage, meaning that it's the transparency, how transparent this color is. And also, as you can see here, we've got other color schemes that I'm not going to talk about at this moment. Okay, so now let's go to the practical side of it, because in this course I'm going to be as practical as I can. I don't want to teach you a theory of CSS and then you can't apply it when I'm done teaching you, and then you still have to think how to apply CSS and also how can you use it practically. So let's just jump straight to a quick practical. Okay, as you can see here, this is a Google website. I was just searching responsive design. So what we are going to do here, we are in the body element of the web page. What I'm going to do, I'm going to set the background. Never mind if you don't understand these terms and codes for now, background color and whatever. Obviously this is a course, I'm going to teach you that. So I'm going to set a background color to, let's say, this a pound sign, and then from then let me type some few numbers and see what color is this. As you can see that it's a little bit gray. Even me, I'm just typing random colors, so as you can see that it changes. So let's just say RGB and open the brackets, and then we just put 3 numbers there. Let's see what is it gonna be. Okay, let me just type it like this, RGB. Okay, let me just say RGB, and then let me open and see, and then I'm going to put 3 numbers there. If it doesn't work this way, obviously I will try a different method. As you can see, the number that I have typed here, it's somewhat like a black color. As you can see, now it works. However, I told you that in web design you must be aware that there is also another value, the one for transparency, which on that design program it was represented as a percentage. But however, in web design you can also represent it as some sort of any number between 0 and 1. For instance, a half of 1 is 0.5. So this number talks about transparency. In terms of percentage, this will be 50%. Let's say this number is black for simplicity. So that will mean that this is 50% of black. As you can see that it's a little bit of gray. So if you want to add more black, we'll say 0.7. As you can see, it's becoming stronger. 0.9. As you can see, it's becoming stronger. But if we want less of black, then we are going to say, we are going to type 0.1. as you can see. Otherwise, that is it for me. I'm Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. I hope this was helpful. If you feel like this was helpful, I have taught you something today, please visit my YouTube channel and subscribe. This is for you. In this video, I'm going to talk about CSS positioning. Please bear in mind, we haven't started yet, but I'm teaching you things that I feel like when I was starting learning CSS, I wish these things were explained to me. CSS can be complex sometimes, more especially if you don't understand the fundamental and how it operates, and also how it relates to HTML and JavaScript. So in this video, I'm going to give you a theory about positioning. Okay, let's just quickly draw a rectangle and let's just give it a bright color. Okay, let me just make it big. Okay, and make a copy of this and change the color. So I want to give you a theory about positioning so that you can understand it and master it. Okay, let's make sure that this one is on top. Okay, so if we talk about somebody's position, obviously I'm not a soccer fan, but I used to hear soccer fans, they are talking about the player position, maybe position number 1, I believe it's a goalkeeper, and number 11 and number 12. So when we talk of position, we need to have a reference point, or let's call it a ground of reference. You can't position something out of the blue or out of nowhere. So we need to have a ground of reference. For instance, if we are talking about the number 1 who is a goalkeeper, is the position of a goalkeeper is, maybe let's say this is the ground, it's somewhere here, and then the other goalkeeper for the opponent then will be on this side. So all other players are arranged according to the field. So this is very, very important to understand if you want to master and understand CSS. So in terms of positioning, you need to first establish the ground, the reference. This is at the bottom of what? Of this red square. Then you've got your point of reference, or you've got your reference ground. So that is also true on CSS. So if you want to position this item, you must position it relative to something. So what does that mean? It will mean that whatever that you will be positioning it relative to, you need to indicate that this let's say element or this item is going to be responsible for acting as a reference for, let's say now, for its players, which let's just call the players the children, and let's call this diagram the parent. So it will mean that as in real life, when I'm explaining to you that its position number 1, it's relative to the field or the ground, relative to the field, so that you can get a picture of where number 1 is relative to the field or the ground. The same happens here in CSS. You can't just position things randomly. So meaning that whenever you talk of position, always think of 2 things, not 1 thing. Don't think of the object or the element that you are going to position, but always think, where am I positioning it? What is my reference ground? I hope you've got that one. So let's talk about 2 things. Let's call the reference ground the parent, and the element that you want to position, let's call it a child. Please don't forget that this is the parent and this is a child. So in CSS, you always need to know who is the child and who is the parent. And also, by default, HTML elements, or they don't come with embedded CSS where you automatically know that this is a parent. So in your CSS, please indicate that this is a parent. How do you do that? I'm just going to type a simple code. Don't mind about it. We are going to explain it in detail. So in CSS, this is how you indicate. So you first set the position of the parent. It's either it's going to be relative. Let's just put relative for now. And also remember, we're always talking about 2 things. You also need to set the position. Let me just increase my parent here. Let me click OK. Let me increase my child here and copy this. Okay, let me move this to the front. Okay, so in order for you to dive deep or to use positioning in CSS, please think about 2 things. Which div element or which element is going to be the parent and which element is going to be the child. Both those elements need to have a position set to something. Let me delete this one. You need to have a position set to something so that you can establish a relationship between these 2. What if this is not set to something? What if this is not set to something and you want to position this item relative to this red box, but the position of the red box is not set? Automatically CSS will think that it's going to be positioned relative to the body. Let's assume that this frame, the white byte, I hope it's also clear to you. Let's assume this frame is the overall body of our website. As you can see now, it has got some blue border. So CSS will always go to the body and use it as a reference. So for me, that's about it. Always keep it that simple. Whenever you want to position something, you want to put this here, always think about 2 things. Which item is going to be my parent? Let's say this is going to be your parent. Make sure that you set the position to something. It's either it's going to position relative or it's going to be absolute. Obviously, as we continue with this course, I'm going to tell you the difference between the 2, but what is more important now, please drill this into your mind. Whenever you want to position something, think about, what is my parent container, so that I can position the child relative to the parent. Otherwise, for me, that's about it. If you're new to my channel, please visit my channel and subscribe. I'm Matthew from Coded Design. See you on the next one. What up, and welcome. I'm Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. This is my YouTube channel, Coded Design, where I teach coding and user interface design. This is a CSS crash course for absolute beginners. If you are a beginner and you're new into CSS, this video is made for you. So we are continuing with CSS theory. In this section, I'm giving you all the things that I wish I could have knew before I wish I knew before I start CSS. These are the concepts that make it difficult for a new beginner to understand CSS, because whenever you want, let's say you are designing a website and you want to position things, and you'll find out that you've been taught on YouTube to do it like this, but in your case it doesn't do it. I understand, it's frustrating. So now the concept that I'm going to explain to you is displaying. What is displaying in CSS? Let's jump to Figma and make some practical example. Okay, in real life, when we are talking about displaying, it relates to somebody like visually seeing something. It has got something to do with seeing things visually. It's more like revealing or showing. So that's also the same to CSS, but however, obviously CSS is some sort of a styling language, so it means that there are some certain things that relates to it as a language, not a real life English knowledge or English sentence. Okay, so step number one, also on CSS, if I want to hide this, I must use the display property. So for instance, if I set this to display none CSS property, this will disappear, or it will not show on the screen. So that makes sense. That's what also as a beginner you were expecting. If I'm displaying none, that means no display. Makes sense, and that makes sense 100%. So now let's continue. Now in the display, there are some other properties that I'm going to talk about, and also I'm going to give you a theory of what effect do they make on your HTML elements. Okay, so we said if we're displaying this none, that means it disappears. But what if we want to show it? So obviously this is not real life English. If we want to show it, we say display block. What does this block come from? Obviously, if something is not displayed, then it must be none. But when we talk of display block, by default, all HTML elements, more especially the divs, they are the display blocks. Other elements, they are displayed in line. So in CSS, when we want to show something, we just write display block. So the div elements, they come automatically with a display block element. So the block value doesn't necessarily mean displaying only, but also in CSS and HTML, it means that if I have got this element and it's displayed block, not only it's visible, it's going to show, but it means that, let me set my background to a darker color so that we can easily see this area, the white area that acts as the body of our HTML. So if I'm setting this to display block, number one, if the display property was set to none, it was invisible. Number one, is going to be visible. That is a normal plain English. However, this is what also it means. It will mean that in this line there won't be another div element. Remember, we're only talking about div element. And also in this course, I'm going to explain these terms in details. Please do me a favor and subscribe so that you can be notified when I'm releasing another video. Okay, so this means that, let me just copy this and paste. Okay, as you can see that this is a div element. If it's set to display block, it means that it also occupies the entire area. If you want to display, if you want to put another div element, you can't put it on the same line. You will have to put it on the second line. So display block means that make it visible when it's invisible, and at the same time you occupy the entire line in your HTML document. That means when you are adding another div element, it cannot be added here. Remember, we're talking about a div element. It cannot be added here. It will be added on a new line. That's why automatically when you type HTML elements, more especially the div element, you will find out that they are stacked one on top of the other, not like this. So if you will want them to be like this, that will mean you will have to change the display property. So do you see that display is not only responsible for showing and hiding things, but also it has got some sort of an extended meaning that, number one, when something is displayed block, let's say, it's going to be visible, yes, but in the HTML document it's going to take this whole line. What do I mean by taking this whole line? Obviously there is nothing that is going to show if it has taken the whole line, but you will just see it here, and when you want to put this one here, it's just automatically is going to be pushed to this side. So maybe you might ask why it's not showing here. It's simply because the display of it's block. What is the opposite, or a value that does maybe somewhat the opposite of display block? Let's say it's display inline. Let's say display inline. So as I've told you that there are some HTML elements that come with a default display, which is a block, just like div elements, but there are some elements that comes with a display inline as a default. The one that I know, it's an image. So when you are displaying an image, it's not going to jump straight to this line. It's going to, because since it has got a display of inline by default, it's just going to jump next to this div. So when things are displayed inline, as you can see that they follow some sort of a row, one after the other, but in a row, they are arranged in a row. But as soon as you display block, you will see that this will jump to the bottom so that they can be aligned vertically, I can say. So contrary to display block, the one that put things here, if you set the display property of this element to inline, it will move to stay in line with this one. Now let's get to some sort of a theory, but also in a practical fashion. So when you are displaying things, or the behavior of HTML element will be confusing, or will be somewhat, it's going to be a weird behavior, because when you put an element in your HTML document, you are expecting them to behave in a certain way. But now if they are being stacked on top of each other, whereas you were interested in aligning them horizontally, obviously that's not what you want to achieve. That means it's doing something that you don't want. That feeling you are going to get it in most times when you are new in CSS and HTML. Please don't mind, be patient and try to learn the language and how it works and its own rules. So when you want to like load things in a horizontal manner, the element, you just display them inline, then they will move like this. But if you want to display them like one on top of the other, then this element must be displayed block. However, div elements by default, they come with the display of block, and some elements they come with the display of inline. There is also another two values that I'm going to talk about, other CSS properties, the display properties, but I'm not going to explain them in detail because they are not for this course, or at least at this time they might confuse you, but I'm just going to give you those. It's display flex and display grid. What are they used for? Whenever you think of a display flex, that's where now we will be thinking responsively. So for now, associate display flex and grid with responsiveness. When we talk about a responsive website, please think about grid and flex. I'm Matthew Msengati, the designer and developer. If you feel like this video has added value in your overall understanding of CSS, please help me so that I can also help others. You just go to my channel and subscribe. In this video, I'm going to teach you inspecting. As you get into web front end and web design and development, inspecting is the most important thing, or use it as a tool that will help you to understand what is happening in your HTML or in your web page. What is inspecting? Let's say we want to know the styles that has been applied, let's say, to this element. So what you do when you are inspecting, you right click and click inspect. So we want more details, or we want to see the code, but the code of a particular element. So what you will do, you will just go to your web browser and inspect. When do you use inspect? Let's say you are coding a website, you are setting a certain element to a background of red, and for some reason it's not happening. No matter what you can do, you are refreshing, it's not happening. So what you will do, you will go to that element and click and inspect and try to see what's going on, what is going on in the HTML structure also and CSS. So obviously, as you can see that this element, this is the class of this element. Let me just wait for my browser to refresh. I think my computer is a bit slow, my apologies about that. As you can see that this is a class, and this class is ytd moving thumbnail render sorry about that. This is not a class, I'm sorry about that, my mistake. This is this class style copy. As you can see in the HTML tag, this is how you show a class. My apologies about that. But what I wanted to show you is that when you are inspecting something, you just right click and click inspect. Yeah, okay, now I see what is the problem. Number one, I think my computer is a bit slow, so it's not performing the way I would like it to. But the only thing that I can do, I've got a tool. I'm just going to be patient and relax and take time so that I can clearly explain this to you. Okay, now I think it has it's done doing its own thing. So let's go back to where we were. If you might want to know more about this item, as you can see that this is an image, here is an image tag, and here is the style. These are the styles. So if you want to see more of what's going on in this image, here is it. As you can see in this image, okay, let me just expand this so that it can be more visible. My apologies for my let me sketch this also. My apologies for my slow laptop. Okay, so as you can see that here are the links that are embedded in this image. Obviously now we've highlighted another one. So let's say you remember before we highlighted this one, but let's say we were inspecting this one, so you will click and just inspect, and that's it. As you can see, it has highlighted this one. So if you want to know what's going on with the CSS style, you will go here. Okay, you will come here. Okay, you will go here. As you can see, the background is transparent. Let's just try to change things here and see what is going to happen. What we have already learned about now, it's the display. So I talked to you about, I've mentioned a display of none. So what we are going to do, we're just gonna check this image, inspect this image, inspect it, and once we find it, this element, once we find this element, we are going to set the display property of this element to none. Okay, this is a label, it's fine. Let's just set whatever element that we have highlighted, because I can see that my computer is not doing exactly what I want. So I need to have some tricks, I need to improvise. Okay, So I'm improvising. I'm just going to type display. The spelling and syntax is very important. None. Let's see what will disappear. Okay, inspector style. Okay, let's just click here and see. Nothing disappears. Okay, let me just type again. Overlay style, scope. Okay, let's just be sure what we are trying to change. Okay, come here again, come here again. Okay, I think my computer is sabotaging me, but that is real life. In real life, things don't always go according to the way you want. The best thing you can do, you can just control your own mind and your own thought process. Just chill and do what you want to do. What I'm going to do, whatever that I have selected, whatever element that I've selected, I believe is that label job without school. I want to display it none. Okay, there are two things involved. It's either it's going to disappear or it might not disappear. Okay, as you can see, it didn't disappear. That's fine. Let's say display none and try to tell CSS that it must force things to happen and say this rule is important, because it might happen that the reason why this rule is not taking an effect. Also, we will talk about this in the course. Please do me a favor and subscribe so that you can be notified when I'm in a video that talks in deep dives on this matter. So when we displayed none on the first time, nothing happened, because as I've said in the introduction that we're going to talk about CSS as it relates to family issues. Who owns who is the parent, who is the children. Obviously, I'm still going to talk about that in the upcoming videos, but this is a certain portion about that element or about that behavior of CSS, the parent and the child and the rules. So what I'm doing here by typing this important, I'm telling CSS that please reinforce that this must happen. Bypass all other rules and make this a priority. That's why it only takes place when I've got this important here. So where were we? We were on inspecting. So inspecting, it's more like debugging. It's more like a certain way of troubleshooting. When you see things that you really don't understand with your overall behavior of your HTML elements, they are not doing what you want them to do. Obviously, you go here and click inspect and then do whatever you want. Obviously, this is the last video on theory. This was just a theory to bring things into perspective, because once we get into coding, you might ask yourself, why now automatically this div behave this way? Why the things are behaving this way? So at least I've given you some sort of a foundation, a tour to CSS as it relates to HTML. Most people, the reason why they don't get the essence of CSS or any language in general, it's because of they are learning the language independently. They are learning the language in isolation. I can't just give you practical about CSS without mentioning a thing or two about HTML and also JavaScript. Otherwise, I'm Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. If you feel like this video has added value in your overall understanding of CSS, please do me a favor and subscribe. See you on the next one. First of all, let me congratulate you for making this far. Now we are getting into the actual CSS, the main thing. In the previous video, I was just giving you a tour to CSS as it relates to HTML and also the preliminaries, things that are important for you to understand. Now we are getting into the main thing. So first of all, I'm just going to go through this file and just show you the HTML structure so that you can understand what's going on. This is just an HTML boilerplate. As you can see, this is telling the browser that this document is HTML. We're just going to skip other things, and this is the head. Basically, in the head section you put all the things that really you won't see visually on your HTML document in the body itself. For instance, this CSS is this one is the title, so it's not part of this space. And also, as you can see, this script linking a JavaScript, you don't see it visually. So in the head section of HTML, that's where you put things that you really not going to see visually. So we've got, let's say, an HTML tag, and then inside the HTML tag we've got a head tag, the one that is responsible for linking scripts and style sheets and whatever. And then we close the head, and then in most cases we used to have a header. Okay, there is also a header tag there, and also there is a body tag. So and that's about it in the HTML structure. Then let's get into CSS. There are two ways of linking CSS in your HTML document. The first one, it's an inline CSS, and the second one, it's linking CSS. In this video we are just going to embed CSS, like we're going to include CSS as an inline style. So how do you do that? Okay, let's just save and refresh the browser to make sure that there's nothing going on that we are not aware of. And then from then, what we are going to do, we are going to add the inline CSS on the body of the HTML element. Okay, so this is how you add an inline CSS style. So you just type style is equal to, and then what do you want to change? You say background color, let's say red. Okay, remember on the color theory, when I was teaching you about colors around HTML, if you only viewing this video, please go and check this playlist on my YouTube channel and also watch that video. So when I was talking about the colors and theories, I only introduced you to RGBA or the hex code, which is the hexadecimal code of the colors. I didn't talk about colors in an English way, or like in a general conversation or in the English language, just like this one. So also with CSS, you can put the name of the color. For instance, here you can say red, you can type purple, you can type orange. CSS does understand that. So here I'm setting the style of the background body to red. Okay, so let's just refresh and see what will happen. Voila, now we've just set the background of our body to red. This is an important thing that you need to note, and please make sure that you understand what I'm going to tell you, and also put it in your heart and in your mind. Things will go wrong. Things will go wrong. Sometimes you will forget to put, maybe you will write this color as there are different ways of writing English names. Maybe you can use this let's say this spelling of color, and then you refresh, and then when you come here, maybe things won't go according to what you want. Please don't panic. It's a phase and you will pass through it. We all start somewhere. Even me in this course, I am going to make mistakes. What is more important is that you look at how I try, or what's my approach of solving the problem. So that is it. This is how you link, this is how you embed CSS in your HTML document. This is called inline CSS. Very important to note, very important to note, CSS prioritizes inline style. In the previous video, I tried to change the background color of a YouTube it was YouTube. It was a YouTube background. I tried to change this by inspecting, and when I was changing it, displaying to none, it didn't change. maybe the reason might be there was a style already in the, let's say, in the opening tag of that element. So meaning that if I can have another CSS somewhere here or anywhere trying to change the color, it won't happen until I put important, so that I can tell CSS really ignore this style and use this one. Obviously you are a beginner, I am a beginner, we are still this is the baby stage, we are taking the baby steps, we will get there. When I reach that video, I will explain in detail about the priorities, why CSS will ignore some of the style and it will prioritize some of the style. Otherwise, for me, Matthew Singati, that's about it. If you feel like this video has added value in your overall understanding of CSS, please, 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 this course is going to be packed with the tricks and tools and tricks of the trade. So please do me a favor and subscribe so that you can be notified. In this video, we are going to link an external style sheet. In the previous video, I showed you how to embed CSS, and I told you that CSS prioritizes the inline style than the other style, even if it's a link style or even if it's an embedded style. Talking about embedding CSS, there is something that I forget, my apologies. So let me change. In this video, we are not going to link CSS, we are going to embed CSS in the same HTML document without doing it like this. We are going to do the same thing but not here. So how do you do that? So you go to right after the body section of your HTML tag, of the body tag, you just type, open a new tag called that one called style, a style tag. So what we did, we have just opened a style tag and we have closed it. So what we are going to do now, the document, the entire HTML document knows that inside here there is CSS. So let's continue with that. Now let's type our CSS. Okay, we want to change the body to red but not in the inline style. Okay, let's change it. Let's do like this. So we want to target that body, and then we open and close bracket, and then this is how we have targeted that body. That means now we are going to, let me just paste. Oh, okay, the syntax is not the same. That's fine. That means we just have to write background color red. Okay, so what we did in the same HTML document, we have embedded CSS but in a different way. This way it's better than the first one, but still it's not the best, because the best way is to put all the CSS styles on a separate file. That will mean if we want to include it to this HTML document, we will have to link it. So this is a better version of embedding CSS, but also it's not the best. Okay, so now let's just save and see what will happen. Okay, as you can see, it's red. That means what we have done, we have embedded a CSS on an HTML document. So what might be the difference between this way and that way? In this way, I think it's more cleaner and shorter and visually pleasing. So, and also we can write as many style as we want here. For instance, we can say the background color is red. Let's set the margin so that I can show you that you can write multiple styles here without always writing style equal to writing style equal to. Okay, let's just check here and see if the margins are going to. Okay, let me just refresh, because at the moment I can't really tell. Okay, let's use what we have learned about the inspecting. If this is your first time or you are new in this channel, and also this is your first video that you see, please go to a playlist and look for other videos. We are just going to inspect and see and confirm if whatever that we did, it has been applied. So we are going to click here and inspect, and we want to check the body tag and see does it has a margin. Let me just increase here. As you can see, the margin is there, but we don't see it visually, but as you can see that the margin is there. So I will talk about the margin and how it applies, and also how can we visually see some of the things that we are doing in the next video. Otherwise, for me, Matthew Msingati, that's about it. See you on the next one. Now in this video we are going to link an external style sheet. So let's just copy this, cut, and then we are going to link the external style sheet. So the first thing that we are going to do, we are going to create a new file. In case you are wondering what am I using, this is Visual Studio Code. It's a code editor. If you want Visual Studio Code, you can just go to Google and search Visual Studio Code download, and then download it from there. So we are going to create an external style sheet, and then we're just going to say type style.css. So this is our external style sheet. So what we are going to do, we are going to copy and paste the code that we had on the embedded style. So let's just change this to green so that we can see if we have successfully loaded our CSS. Then again, this is my best tip that I can give you as a beginner. If things go wrong, just relax, don't worry. Get back to your code and see what you are going to change. Obviously, when you are new, you are harsh on yourself. You feel like by now you are supposed to know everything. It happens to the best of us. So when things don't go the way you want, don't mind. Just go back to your code, Google things, go to YouTube and make some research, and that's it. That's how we all learn. Okay, let's continue. In video number 1, I think it's video number 1, we've talked about the basic structure of HTML. The section that we have talked about is the head section. Do you still remember what we said? If you are new in this series, please, this is a CSS series, it's a course. Please go to my YouTube channel, Coded Design, and just check the playlist there. So what we said about this section is that it contains all the things that you won't see visually in the body. So now what we want, we are going to go to the head tag, not the header tag, but the head tag. So the head tag starts here and it ends here. So inside here, what we are going to do, let's just make sure the closing script closes here, and then what we are going to do, we are going to link the external style sheet. So this is how we do that. Let's just quickly click here. As you can see, this is how you link an external style sheet. So you open a link tag. Link tag is one of those HTML tags that doesn't have a corresponding closing tag, so it ends here. So this is how you write a link tag. So this relationship is telling us that the relationship between this HTML and the document that we are going to link, it's a CSS, it's a style sheet. And then inside this href, we need to type the path of this style sheet. So since in our case the style sheet and the index HTML, they are in the same location or folder, we are just going to type here style. As you can see, Visual Studio Code is helping me, style.css. So basically this is how you link an external style sheet. You go to the header section and type link, type the relationship and type the href, and this is the path to this style sheet. So let's save and go to our browser and refresh and see if the background is going to turn green. Hooray! The background is green. that is it for this video. I'm Matthew Msengati, the designer and developer. If you feel like this video has added value to your overall understanding of CSS, please do me a favor, just hit that subscribe button to help me to help others. Thank you so much. In this video, we are just gonna get into HTML and just see a thing or two about the default styles. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are just going to open a div, and then let's just say box 1, and then another div element, and then say box 2. And then what we can do also here, let's just put a p tag, a paragraph tag. Let's just say para, and then let's put an image or a link tag, which is a, and this is a link tag. Okay, so this is just basic HTML elements, nothing much, nothing less. Let me just put some space in between so that it can be clear. So what I want to teach you in this video, I want to show you the default styles, HTML style. I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it or to phrase it, but what I'm trying to show you is that what happens when you just put an, let's say, an element in an HTML page. What are the things that are going to be there by default that might that might maybe you might not be aware of, and when you want to take a full control of the element, there might be a challenge a little bit. So I hope this is going to be clear as we do it. Let's just refresh our browser and see what's in there. As you can see, we've got box 1, we've got paragraph 1, we've got a link tag, and we've also got another box. Okay, let's go back here, and between these let's put an image tag. Okay, an image tag with nothing. Let's just refresh and see. Okay, it doesn't show. That's not a problem. Okay, now let's just change the color of this to gray. And what is it? Also, when you are here in Visual Studio Code, you can change the color from here as you want. Back to what we have learned in the previous videos, this is the RGB values. As you can see, what did we say about transparency? As you can see, there is another value here setting the transparency. So that is it. That means we are continuing, we are learning, we are gaining knowledge. So let's just jump straight to the browser and refresh. Now the background is gray, at least it's not that green. Okay, now first of all, let's inspect what's going on here. Why must we inspect? Because we didn't do any CSS, we didn't style these elements besides only the background, which is gray. So let's just inspect and see what are the default styles that are there. So how are we going to see that? We're going to inspect the element, and then we're going to make some changes. Let's see. Okay, this is the element. First of all, in the previous video we said that the div element automatically, as you can see, they occupy the whole space. So if you put another div won't go and sit next to this one. As you can see, it just occupies the whole space. So that's the first thing that we are learning. What else? And then as you can see, this orange part here on top of this paragraph and below this paragraph. And also let's check in the, okay, we don't have it in the div, but in the paragraph we have. What about the image? Obviously the image has got nothing in it, so that's why it doesn't show. Okay, what we are going to do, I want the image to show because we are going to learn something from it. Let me say it's pexels.com. Let me just check this website and grab an image link from there and see what we can do. I want that image to be there because it's going to teach us a thing or two. It's going to teach us a thing or two about the default styles. Okay, let's just put, okay, so since we are already here, an image tag, it's one of those tags that doesn't have a corresponding closing tag. As you can see, the body, you open it here, you close it here. The paragraph, you open it here, you close it here. But the image is one of those tags that you don't have a closing tag for it. Okay, let me take this link and paste it here, and then say link 1. This one is going to be link tag 1, and this one is going to be link tag 2. So what I'm hoping to show you in this video, it's those styles that come with HTML by default, those ones that you have to override, you have to change. Okay, and then let me just make my life easier. Let me style this image just to control the height of it so that it can be small. The height of it, let's make it 90 pixels. Okay, let's see. Okay, blocked across what. Okay, let me just search on the internet. I don't know why this is blocked. Okay, the random picture generator. Let me just check another website. Okay, let's just go here. The other option that we can do if we can't get the image online, let's say, okay, the other thing what we can do, we can download the picture locally and save it in our desktop. Save it in the folder directory, and that is it. So here online I was just trying to do a very quick way so that I can show you. Let's put it in that folder where we want it to be. Okay, as an alternative, front end, jQuery. That's it. Pick. Okay. Save as. Let's check this one. The first one, I don't like that format. This one is a JPG, so this one I'm sure. Okay, this one is a JPG. That's why I will prefer this one, the JPEG one. Okay. You see this one is still loading. Obviously we have decided to make some other alternative. So as you can see that we've got pic2 here .jpg. So in this source, if this link is giving us some issues and I don't know why, then let's just reference pic2, which is this one. So now we are sure that our picture is there. Okay, I don't think we need this. I don't think also we need this. Okay, now let's refresh and see. Okay, here is the picture. Okay, now in this tutorial what I want to show you is, you see this div box 1 and this paragraph box 1, they are right beneath each other. Like this one is beneath this one, is beneath this one. Now let's look at the links. You see the links, they are aligned horizontally, meaning that one next to the other. And then the box, again, as you can see, the box is right behind this one. Okay, let me just do one last thing and take the third link. Take the third link, put here, okay, 1, 2, 3, and say 4. Okay, so what's going on here? By default, the div elements, they are having a, let's say, a CSS property which is display block. Let me quickly change their background. Let me just highlight all div elements so that what I'm saying, it can be clear. Let's change the background color. Maybe there's a spelling mistake. Color. Let's change to this one. Save. Let's see. So as you are new in CSS, maybe you might ask yourself why I've got like the elements in my DOM or in my HTML page, but they are behaving differently. As you can see that this box 2 is the same as this box 1, but as you can see that it doesn't conform to aligning itself horizontally, just like these element link 1, the image, and link 2. As you can see, link 3 and link 4, they also continue with being aligned next to each other. So we can just theoretically say that whenever you put an element in your HTML document, it has a default style. It has some default properties that it comes with that you will have to override. This is one of the things that I think gave me a tough time when I was learning CSS. It gave me a tough time. I didn't understand that these elements, they have got their own default styles. Okay, let's override those styles. Okay, first of all, let's inspect and look at the first div with the name box 1. So what we are going to do here, okay, as you can see, this is where these boxes are styled. So I'm gonna add an attribute there, a CSS style, which is display. Automatically it's display block. As you can see, there is nothing that is going to change on the divs, on all of our divs, because by default it's display block, so it comes as a default display. Now let's change this to inline and see what will happen. Now as you can see, one might feel like now our divs have changed their width, and my answer to that will be no. The default, the div element didn't change the width, but we have changed the display property. So instead of now taking the whole area by default, now they are behaving like the link and what? Like the link and the image. Now they are inline. So it means that if we can go back to the default here, which is block, it means that the difference between the default style of a div and the default style of a link is that this one, it displays inline by default, and the div element display block by default. So I hope now this is becoming clear to you. Now what we can do, we have manipulated the display of the div element. Now let's target the A tag, which is this one. So let's just add a display of block. As you can see, now we have changed the default behavior of a link tag so that it conforms to, or it behaves like the div or this paragraph. As you can see now, these links, they've got a display of block. What is a display of block? A display of block, when you put an element into your HTML, it fills the entire row by default, so that when you put another element, it must go behind this one. When you put another element, it must go behind this one. So in closing, whenever you put your HTML tags, whenever you put your HTML tag in an HTML document, please note that they have some sort of default behaviors. They have some sort of a default behaviors. A bonus to this video will be, if you notice here in this body, we are having a padding. Let's just inspect it. You see the orange part. Let me show you here. As you can see, this orange part here, this orange part, it's something that is there that we didn't set. As you can see, it has got some sort of the margin. You see this margin, you see. So this is something that we really didn't do. We didn't set this up. So this means that some element in HTML, not some element, HTML comes with a default margin and padding. So can we override that? Yes. Let's quickly override that. Let's come. Oh, okay. Here we have put a margin of 40. Okay. Let's just quickly refresh. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, HTML elements, they come with a default padding. What is a default padding? Since we have removed that margin that we put there, now you can see that these elements don't fit to the edge of the body. There is this small gap. It comes as a default padding. Also, this is something that gave me a tough time when I was new in CSS and HTML. So what we're going to do, we are going to take a universal selector and tell that all the HTML elements, that they must have a padding of 0. So it means that everything that we put in the HTML file as an HTML element, it will have a padding of 0. Now let's look at the difference. Okay, no difference. And the moment, I wonder what happened. Let's just go back and check. Okay, I'm on my CSS style. Yes, everything is there. Okay, the universal selector, so everything must have a padding of 0. Save that. The other thing that you can always check is to clear your cookies so that your browser can refresh. Okay, so that your browser can refresh. Let's clear the cookies. Okay, go back. Okay, go back. Let's refresh and see. Okay, suppose based on what we have done. So, oh, okay, I forgot also the margin, padding and margin. Let's also see this before we go to inspect. There is a default padding and also the default margin, so we have to set these. So before we go and inspect to see what might be the problem, as you can see. So now what was the problem here? It was the margin of this inside element. This element inside had some margin. So the best practice, you must always override these so that your document can look like this. instead of having a document that has already got some default style that goes within the HTML text. Otherwise, for me, Matthew Msingati, that's about it. Please do me a favor and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for that. Hey, congratulations for making this far. In this video, we are going to talk about my favorite boxer, the greatest of all time, and that is Muhammad Ali. So in this video, we are not going to talk about CSS, we are going to talk about boxing. So let's just jump straight to it. Okay, in web design and development, or in HTML specifically, we've got something which is called a box model. So this is not about boxing, it's about the box model. Okay, a box model is just a diagram that shows you how the HTML elements are constructed, or how they are made, or they are arranged. So what does the box model really like assist you with, or it helps you with? Okay, now whenever you put an HTML tag on an HTML page, always think of this box model, not boxing. Always think of this box model. So let's just go back to what we did last time. All these elements, they are constructed, I can say, like this. This is the makeup of all of these elements, even these ones that we see on the screen on Google. This is the makeup of these elements. So it means that any element will have a content, it will have a padding, it will have a border, and it will have the margin. So whenever you put your HTML element, or you are styling your element, you must know that this is some sort of the construction. So okay, so this means that let's take this dotted line as the actual element. This dotted line is the actual element. This means that inside it, right inside it, around it, we've got a padding. So when you want your item, let's say let's check to this arrow. When you want your items, let's say this is the box, the body. So when you want the children of whatever container to move at least inside a little bit, you use a padding so that you can push your elements at least inside a little bit. This is the content, the whatever thing that we have typed here. So when you want to push it inside a little bit, then you use padding. Then when you want to control a space around your element, meaning that we feel like we don't want to be crowded, you wish like people can keep a distance from you. If that thing happens into an HTML element, you want the same effect, then you can use a margin. As you can see, this is the margin of this HTML element, the dotted element. And then the dotted line itself, it's a border. So all HTML elements, they have these things. So let's just jump straight into the practical side of it and make some tests. Okay, what we are going to do, we are going to, let me delete some of the things and only leave few things to work with. Okay, and leave only the box and the paragraph. Okay, let's go to the box. So the box model is telling us that this box has a border. It has it. So we can say border. Okay, we can say border 1 pixel. It must be solid. It must be red. Okay, as you can see that we have changed the border. So now this div element, okay, I wonder where are my styles. Okay, let's see. Okay, my styles. Okay, here are my styles. Okay, While we are here, this border feels like, okay, this box feels like this paragraph is crowding it, it's too close to it, so it wants to keep a distance between it and all the other HTML elements. So can you guess what we can use to accomplish that? We can use margin. As you can see now, all around the box element, which is box 1, the div element, there is a space. So we have just pushed this paragraph 20 pixel away from this box. Now this box feels like also that the content inside it, it's too close to it, so it wants to keep a respectable distance. Okay, now let's work on the padding. Let's make it 20 pixel also. So we have just completed the box model. I hope now you understand what a box model is and also how can you space things around. So we've got the box, we've got the padding, we've got the border, and we've got the margin. That is it for this video. Otherwise, for me, Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer, thank you so much, and also thank you so much for hitting that like and subscribe button. See you on the next one. In this video, we are going to talk about selectors. We have already used selectors, even though we didn't talk much about them. So this is gonna feel like a continuation of some sort. Without wasting time, let's just get started. Let's see what we have on our HTML. This is what we have on our HTML. Okay. Now let's just jump straight to our CSS. Okay, as you can see that we have targeted the body element, which is light gray, I can say, and then also we have changed the height of the image, and also we have changed the background color of the div. Okay, so we have used selectors here, and we have targeted the HTML element with their specific name. So that's the first way in which you can target HTML element. So we wanted to style the body, we targeted the body tag. We wanted to style the image, we targeted directly the image tag. And we wanted to style a div, we've decided to target the div tag. What if maybe we want to be specific? What if we want to style, let's say we have two divs here. Let's just make an example. We've got more than one div. Okay, let me just quickly label the div1, box 3 and box 4. So what if we have more than one div and then we want to target a certain div specifically? As you can see now, all our divs, they've got this background. So what if we want to target maybe the second div and change the color of that div? Well, there is a solution in CSS, and that is an ID. So what we can do, we can go to the div of interest, which is we want to target box 3, and then we can set an attribute on the ID attribute to, let's say, box. Okay, let's say box 3. Okay, this is box 3. Okay, all these, they are div tags. They are div tags, as you can see, but going forward, I'm going to refer to them as boxes so that I cannot bring some confusion. We have box number 3 that has got an ID box 3. Okay, so now we can go to our CSS, the external CSS. We can target that ID. When you target the ID, you use this a pound sign, which is box 3. So now we are targeting box 3 and we want to set the background color. The background color to black. Sorry about that. the background color. Something is just wrong. Undo, undo, undo. Background color to black. Let's see what will happen. Let's just see what will happen. As you can see now, specifically box 3 has changed the color because we have used an ID selector to target that specific element. So that's about it for this video. Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. I will see you on the next video. Thank you so much for hitting that like and subscribe button. The first thing that I must do, I must congratulate you for making this far. You are getting there. Me and you, we are becoming better front-end developers. Let's continue. In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about CSS variable. I feel like this is, we are leveling up. This is a bit of not a beginner's concept. So buckle up, be ready. Now we are getting into more serious and advanced stuff. So what I'm going to talk about in this video, I'm going to talk about CSS variables. Okay, so CSS variables can help us to dive deep into the dry principle, meaning that we must not repeat ourselves. It enhances, it gets into, we are using that principle the most here with CSS variables. So let me first introduce a root. Okay, a root selector, which means a root, it's more like it's a global or some sort of a universal selector, but it relates to the root folder. Sorry, not the root folder, but okay, let me just explain this in this way. Okay, let's type HTML DOM. Okay, the DOM represents a tree. So a tree has a root and it has got the branches and it has got the leaves. Okay, let's see, HTML DOM. Let me just type here root. So the root means it's more like the source or the some sort of the parent. Okay, let's check. This will make things clearer. As you can see, this is the HTML DOM, or these are the HTML elements. We've got the HTML here. I cannot see where they are closing it, but that's not important. We've got an HTML element and it has got the children. So as you can see here, this is the first children, the head, and obviously the head might have another children. But when we talk of a root in this hierarchy, in this let's say in this tree kind of a structure, the root is the beginning of the HTML, the beginning, the parenting tag. Okay, let me make that clear. This is a tree. This HTML tag is the root because everything starts here. Everything that you see inside the head, the body, and whatever, they are just branches and leaves and whatsoever, but the root is this HTML. I hope now it's clearer. Okay, so going forward, when I'm about to talk about CSS variables, let's start about the root selector. So this, it's more like it's selecting the entire HTML document. So in the entire HTML document, I want to create a variable which I'm going to name it back color. So let me name it back color, and then say the black color is purple. Okay, as you can see, we've got a back color which is purple. Okay, then let's go back to our HTML document here. So Now what I want to do, I want to change the hard-coded yellow color here in this class to be a variable, so that when I want to change it next time, I can just go to that variable and change that variable. Okay, let's see that. So as you can see that now in our root element, we've got the back color, which is purple. The only thing that we need to make sure that we don't forget is this name, this variable name. Okay, so now we can go to this green. Okay, I think this is a wrong naming convention. We cannot have a class which is green, whereas inside that class we've got different colors. So let's be smart here and apply good programming practices for naming our things. Let's say the B color as for background color. So now we are changing this style to be background color. So if maybe another developer might come and read our code, at least they are not going to be confused, because this just means a back, let's just say back color. So this is meaningful. It means that we have to change it also here. So this class is no longer green now, because we are using it for different things, multiple purposes. So it really doesn't make sense if the name of that color is green. Okay, those are just good programming practices. Okay, we are trying to write a clean code. So what we want to do now, instead of yellow, okay, let me just refresh and show you that nothing will change. The background color will still be yellow. Now what we want to do, we want to put a variable here. So this is how you do it in CSS. You said var, and then you type that back color. Refresh. Now let's check which color is going to be shown. As you can see, it's purple. What if maybe we want to change that color purple, and then we can go here in the root, and then we can say red. As you can see, everything will change according to this variable. Voila! So that's about it on CSS variables. I'm Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. Please do me a favor and hit that like and the subscribe button. See you on the next one.